Yo, 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 what's good, guys? Tomorrow is a big day in the world of combat sports. We got UFC Nashville, Andrade versus Suarez. The real main event, I don't really give a crap about Sandhagen versus Font. I like Corey, but that fight literally has no effect on me. I don't care who wins, but I think Corey wins. But that's neither here nor there. It's Andrade versus Suarez that matters. It's Tatiana winning that matters for me. And we got Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. I'm not gonna be on here like for too long, like I was the last couple lives. Just gonna discuss a few things, unless some of you guys pop on and got some questions or some takes you want me to read and respond to. But Jessica versus Suarez. This could be the last dance for Jessica Andrade. A lot is at stake in this matchup. More so for Jessica because her job could be on the line. And, I mean, one more loss in a row, she could be cut. She'll definitely be bounced out of the top five. It just won't be a good look to be on like a 3-fight losing streak, and she'll be further removed from her title hopes. She's got a lot to lose. Tatiana has less to lose, so I expect Tatiana to come in with no fear in this matchup against Jessica Andrade because she knows she has nothing to lose in this fight. We're going to see a fearless, confident Tatiana with momentum versus Jessica, who I believe is going to be afraid of losing because she knows that she can't lose this again. And she's going to be worried about the wrestling of Tatiana Suarez. But, I mean, there's a lot at stake for Tatiana as well. I mean, this is sort of a must win for Tatiana because this is the fight that is going to determine if she really is all that. Because Andrade is, a savvy veteran who's an accomplished veteran who's won a world title, fought for titles multiple times. She's been a solid top contender all throughout her career. So if she can get it done against Jessica Andrade, then she'll be in the top five and she'll be proven to be not all hype. And then she'll, at the age of 32, will be closer than ever to a title shot. Whereas if she gets knocked back, set back right now there's no time for setbacks for Tatiana Suarez. It's now or never in my book. So, but I think she's going to get the job done. I really think that she's going to get the job done against Jessica Andrade and rather dominantly. I know Andrade is a dangerous and formidable threat to Tatiana. She's a dangerous fight for anybody. Let's be real. Even though I'm talking really confident, like, yeah, I know Tatiana's going to win. There's always a chance. I mean, Andrade has power. There's always a possibility that what if maybe she does keep it standing and overwhelms Tatiana with her relentless pressure and big shots, you know what I mean? Or what if because she's strong, what if she like muscles her way into some kind of choke like she did to Amanda Lemos? Like that does scare me. But unless like if Jessica does not get some like crazy fluky Hail Mary freak finish, I think she just gets completely outclassed in this matchup because Tatiana is the all around not all around better, but she's the more talented fighter and she's just got that wrestling X factor. In terms of women's MMA, she's the best that this sport has to offer when it comes to wrestling. I mean, this girl almost made it to the Olympics, so I mean, that's no joke. That goes to show what level she's at. So yeah, we'll see. But I do think that Tatiana, I think she's gonna get this done. I'm gonna pick her to win the submission. And if she loses this fight, I'm gonna be very angry, like I was when she lost to when Jessica beat Rose. I was pissed. But a more mature version of myself will actually be able to contain my anger better. But I'm not gonna take that well, man. I cannot have Tatiana lose this one tomorrow. And Jessica just needs having her in the top five. It's so pointless. Like, nobody wants to see Andrade fight for the title in any weight class. And no one takes Jessica Andrade seriously as a threat to the title in either flyweight or strawweight. What's up, Low Radar? How's it going? I mean, just think about it. In flyweight, who does Jessica beat ahead of her in the rankings? She gets destroyed by Santos. Aaron already beat her and would just beat her again. Manon Fiorot was supposed to fight her and would have beat her and would have beat her. Shevchenko, same result. Alexa Grasso would absolutely box the bleeding head off Jessica Andrade and finish her with her hands like Xiaonan did. Um, And then straw weight. I mean, really, who does this girl beat? In the top 10. So she's going to be fighting Tatiana. I think Tatiana wins that. I mean, yeah, she beat Tisha, but at this point, like, I can see Dern beating her because she's improving a lot. Dern probably would submit her. Marina Rodriguez, I would say, wins that because Jessica is too stupid to use her wrestling now. When she has that advantage over some fighters, she'll choose not to go to it, like the Yan fight. So she'll probably try to strike with Marina, who's a better striker now. Marina is not as good of a counterpuncher off the back foot as a Yan Xiaonan, and she doesn't move her head. But at the end of the day, her striking is so much better. She probably picks Jessica apart. I could see Jandiroba beating her in top five wise. The only person in the top five that Jessica could beat really is Carla Esparza. I would pick Lemos in a rematch because she got lucky in that fight. Xiaonan would whoop her ass again. It would just be a more prolonged beatdown because she's just so much better than her, especially as a striker. Rose Namajunas already beat her, and I think Rose, if she's mentally there, I think she wins the third fight easier. And Zhang Wei Li would just take care of her ass again. So her winning this fight would just completely ruin things because we got Wei Li as the champion, right? I mean, best case scenario that if Jessica wins, maybe Lemos wins, and then it can set up like a rematch with Jessica and Lemos because Andrade is like the last person to beat Amanda, right? But if Zhang stays the champion, no one and their mama wants that rematch. Xiaonan will get the title shot, but then does Jessica just fight the winner? Like, what happens by that point? Like, there's just no interest to see Andrade at the top of the division anymore. So hopefully Tatiana understands the assignment and she gets it done. But yeah, I agree. She's just a name now. And I mean, she did beat Lemos, but that was a fluke. That was a fluke. She got her legs absolutely chopped down. She was completely hesitant. And her only other way she could have won that fight is maybe if she could have used some grappling against Lemos offensively and tried getting the high crotch like she would do in the old days. But on the feet, she would have got completely tuned up. If she didn't get a takedown, they stayed standing, and Jessica wasn't able to get that, fluky, freaky, weird standing submission. She wasn't winning that fight against Amanda. I mean, if Xiaonan could do that to her, what makes you think Amanda couldn't do that? If Tatiana is who we think she is, she will run through her. Exactly. Exactly. And I really think she is. I really think Tatiana is all that. I mean, it's all because of her wrestling and who in this division can wrestle with Tatiana and Suarez. And Tatiana, she out wrestled Carla Esparza, okay? She dominated Carla, and that win aged well. Carla went on to win 6 fights since. I know some of them weren't the most dominant performances and there were questionable decisions, but if Tatiana is a better version of Carla, who went on to win 6 fights in a row and be the number 2 contender and actually end up, winning the belt back, then who's to say that a better version of Carla couldn't do the same thing? Because I think Tatiana Suarez, if she had to fight those same 6 people that Carla did, I think she goes through all of them. Except I think she finishes a good majority of them. She already beat Grasso. I think she would have beat. Wait, no, she fought Jandiroba. Okay, skip that. Well, actually, no. Okay, I got the win streak out of order. She fought Jandiroba, Alexa, Michelle, Marina, Jan, and then Rose. So all of them in that order. She beats Verna, already beat Grasso. Similar result. Melts Michelle Watterson with pure ease. Dominates Marina. That fight wouldn't even be close. She battered Xiaonan the exact same way Carla did. And I think a Rose fight, I mean, I don't want to count out Rose Namajunas because Rose is really good on her best night and she has a lot to offer Tatiana stylistically. The striking, the footwork, the experience, she's good off her back as well. But Tatiana will be more aggressive than Carla and she'll like actually initiate things more. And I think once she gets a hold of Rose, she could actually hold her down like Carla couldn't. So I would say Rose has a chance, but more likely Tatiana would have beat Rose. Now, I know MMA math doesn't work, and maybe Tatiana isn't the same fighter that she was pre-injury, but that fight with Montana De La Rosa was a good indication for me that she never truly left, that she's still here and still in form, you know? And now this is going to be her second fight in like what? In 6 months? Not her first fight in 4 years, second fight in 6 months in a familiar weight class against a smaller opponent. I mean, just think about that. Now Tatiana, she's got that activity out of the way. She has a fight under her belt, a win and a finish, confidence through the roof. So I think going forward, Tatiana is just going to be even better than she was in her last fight. And they say you're only as good as your last fight. Then Jessica is screwed because she looked like crap in her last two fights. And Tatiana in her last fight looked great. And before that, she already came in that fight with like an undefeated record. She took care of business. I was impressed. Yeah, me too. I was very impressed by Tatiana Suarez. And honestly, with Andrade, like, I don't think she was ever that good of a fighter. Now, I could be contradicting myself because I have sung her praises in the past. But if you really think about it, and you really think about Jessica's career and who she's beaten and who she's lost to, I mean, come on. And I think her year of 2023 is just kind of proving everything I've said about her. She's literally just all strength. And now that she's being put out, why is this person pulling in my drive? Okay, never mind. Thought this idiot was about to pull in my driveway. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. But I think this year and how she's lost the fights and who she's lost to is it's sort of proof of everything I've been saying about Jessica Andrade, that she's just all strength, all power. And if you're a certain caliber of fighter, if you're like a below average fighter, then you're not going to be able to deal with Jessica Andrade. But if you're an ultra talented fighter and you're like a championship caliber fighter, then you should be able to beat someone like Jessica Andrade. I mean, she started her strawweight career at like 3-0, beating Panay. Panay isn't really a good fighter and was stylistically favorable because all she has is jiu-jitsu, no striking, no power. JoJo Wood, slow, decent stand-up, but not that good of a ground game. She's been submitted several times before. Angela Hill can't beat anybody worth mentioning. And Angela Hill put up a pretty good fight against her. And then when she stepped it up and she fought the undefeated dominant champ, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the strawweight goat, got destroyed in that fight, completely outclassed. And then who does she beat since then? I mean, Claudia Gadelia, I mean, maybe at the time it was a good win, but that win aged like milk. And Claudia is like a version of Andrade that doesn't have as good of a gas tank, isn't as gritty, and just isn't that scrappy. So she fair play, matched well with Gadelia, but I wouldn't really count that as a great win. It was only a matter of time that Claudia was going to get exposed. If it wasn't going to be to Jessica, it was going to be to someone else. And this decline was going to happen sooner rather than later. Tisha Torres, too small, and Tisha Torres doesn't really have good defensive wrestling. She lacks the takedown defense. And she was lighting up Jessica on the feet. And I mean, if Tisha Torres was bigger, I think she probably could have beat Jessica Andrade, in all honesty. And then let's talk about the Karolina Kowalkiewicz win. People really overrated Jessica's KO power off this performance. The only reason why she knocked out Karolina the way she did is because Karolina asked to be KO'd. Karolina Kowalkiewicz ran forward, head down, eyes closed. It's the ones you don't see coming that can get you out of there. So that's Karolina's fault, and she was defeated before the fight started. She was crying on the walkout, like she knew she was going to lose. She didn't even want to be there. That wasn't the same confident Karolina with that swagger that we're used to seeing. And I really believe, honestly, if Kowalkiewicz came in that fight with no fear, and if she didn't panic in that fight and she kept her composure, honestly, I'm not saying she would have won, but she would have had a better chance at winning the fight. And she probably could have lasted longer, probably could have lasted to a decision, made the fight more competitive. I mean, she was hitting Jessica, landing good jabs and straight punches. She didn't have to blitz, but Carolina was a little bit dumb that night. Um, all she had to do was use a little bit of side to side movement, some jabs, some 1-2, some basic boxing fundamentals. And I think she could have had a chance of winning that fight, but Claudia, Tisha, Carolina, not really the greatest of wins. I mean, for the time, they were good wins because back then they were top 5 fighters. But if you compare today's strawweight division, those girls are nothing. Like the strawweight division has completely evolved. And then she beat Rose, which was an absolute fluke of a win, by the way. Like Rose was her next best opponent she's ever fought since Joanna. And she got absolutely tuned up. But she's lucky that Rose is not destined to win 4 fights in a row. She always has to lose, when she's at her fourth straight fight, After 3 wins, she loses. So if she would have fought Rose, if she would have ended up fighting Rose at like UFC 223 when Rose was just coming off the win over Joanna and didn't get her third win yet, I think Rose wins that fight, to be honest. I don't think she would have got that fluke finish. But fair play, she beat Rose. But that was lucky. And the Weili loss proved that because Weili, again, she was like another version of Jessica, but with actual skill, actual good stand up. She could match the scrappiness of Andrade, the power of Andrade, and had the counter punch to deal with her and completely cleaned her clock and took care of her. And then when her and Rose ran that back, Rose Namajunas fixed that mistake. And I mean, Andrade did make it close against Rose Namajunas, but I mean, look, that was Rose at her absolute worst performance that night compared to Jessica's best. There was a lot factoring into that. I mean, the world pandemic had happened. That fight just got delayed from April to July. They were going to fight in New York. They ended up fighting in Abu Dhabi. So I'm sure with Rose and her mentality that had somewhat of an effect on her, and plus she was taken off guard by Andrade fighting smart and moving her damn head all over the place. But even then, on Rose's worst night, she couldn't beat her. And I know the excuse is, well, she would have won that fight if it was a 5 rounder. That could be true, but she should have been able to take care of business within 3 rounds, and she couldn't do that, And then she switches divisions. She fights Caitlin Chukagian, but look, Caitlin Chukagian is only difficult to beat if you're a below average fighter, who, I don't know, if you're a below average weak fighter, then Caitlin Chukagian is going to beat you. You know what I mean? But Caitlin Chukagian, when you have any kind of advantage over her, whether it be wrestling or power or athleticism, if your ground game is much better than Caitlin, you'll beat Caitlin Chukagian. And Andrade, of course, came in that fight with a power advantage, strength advantage, a wrestling advantage, better than her on the ground. Chukagian is slower, weaker, no power. So, of course, Andrade was able to deal with her pretty easily. But then what happened when she fought Valentina? Pound for pound, one of the best in the world. Couldn't do anything to her. And then Calvillo, she just isn't tough enough, and she just can't bang like that. And Calvillo sucks. And then she goes back to strawweight, beats Lemos, lucked that one, went back to flyweight. Murphy sucks, so of course she won that fight. And then she stepped it up again. Notice the pattern? She stepped it up. She fought Aaron, a potential future champion, a young, talented, ever-improving fighter with a good wrestling and submission game, with improving stand-up, and look what happened. She got smoked. And then she fought Yan Xiaonan, an improved and promising top contender and China's best talent. She got completely smoked in that fight. So that's the pattern with Andrade's career. When she fights a bunch of weak, low-level opponents, she does well. And then against decent opponents, she could get lucky potentially. But when she's unable to use her physical attributes to her advantage, she falls so far behind. When she cannot physically bully you, then she has nothing for you. And is she going to be able to physically bully Tatiana Suarez? No, Tatiana's bigger than her and is a much better wrestler. And if they lock up, I expect Tatiana Suarez to get the better of it. So basically what I'm trying to say is Jessica Andrade is overrated and is finally being exposed. And I just think tomorrow will just finally be the nail in the coffin that just proves that Jessica was really never good. I mean, I want to say she wasn't good, but she was never great. Let's just put it that way. And honestly, she never should have been the champion. Let me read these comments. Rose was happy she lost the first fight. Well, of course she was, because Rose Namajunas, one moment she wants to be the champion, she wants to be the best, she wants to win, then she can wake up the next day and then be like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, because Rose has multiple personality disorder and is bipolar. If I'm right about that, I wouldn't be surprised, because we all know that Rose is mentally unstable. So, of course, imagine Rose actually was a mentally stable fighter and a consistent fighter. Jessica would be so screwed. What's up, my bro? We got a collab as fuck, bro. Let's go live for like 2 hours. Talk women's MMA soon. Keep up the good videos. I know you've been uploading a lot lately. Yeah, I'm very active. I'm extremely active. Like since May, I've been like posting every 5 seconds. I could have been lazy and just stuck to the community tab, but I like to actually make videos and voice my opinions. And I've been jumping on every set of news in the MMA world that I've been updated on, on the realm of Instagram. And I'm going to stay active so I can keep generating views and I can give my subscribers something to look forward to. And my subscribers can always count on me to cover the next piece of news and to upload a video. You don't have to worry about waiting, because I'm not the most busy guy and I got a lot of time on my hands. I know like a lot of YouTubers, like a lot of more popular YouTubers than myself, usually don't have a lot of time on their hands. Like MMA Guru, the Weasel, they're pretty busy. So you don't see them upload a lot. Even Coach Sheldon Harrison, you don't see him upload that actively compared to myself. Andrade about to get her third L in a row now. Exactly, she is. The problem with Andrade is she's just getting exposed and figured out. Exactly. You DJC, you know how we rocking. Andrade is so tiny. She's like 5 feet tall. Facts. I'm worried about my wife Alexa. I think Valentina is gonna win, sadly. Well, she ain't truly your wife if you don't believe in her, then. I never doubted Alexa Grasso all throughout her flyweight run, and it ain't going to start now. I'm not going to jump on the fluke train just because she was losing 2-1, and then she got to come from behind finish. Leon Edwards was losing to Usman before the late finish and then beat him by decision in the rematch. So, and plus Usman was winning with his wrestling and couldn't win with his wrestling again. So just because Valentina was winning with her wrestling last time does not mean that she will this time. And plus, Valentina Shevchenko is older, and she's shown in her previous performances that she is sort of declining, and age is catching up to her, and she's just lacking the evolution in her game. I just think Alexa Grasso has her so well studied and scouted out and figured out that unless Valentina comes back completely reinvented or with some new changes, I don't see how she wins. Like, there's nothing she can do that can surprise Alexa that Alexa hasn't seen before that she won't be ready for. So Alexa by decision as far as I'm concerned. Blame Pat Barry. Yeah, I do blame him. And it's funny because Pat Barry, him and I follow each other on Instagram, and I've DM'd him before. Believe it or not, I've actually been on a FaceTime call with Pat Barry before as well, because he called me after the Ariel interview, and I met Rose Namajunas as well, which I was very happy as one of her bigger fans, right? And of course, if Pat Barry ever saw my videos as of late where I'm just dropping the hard truth on Rose and Pat Barry would hate me and would probably keep Rose away from my channel. And I've wanted to interview Rose for like the longest time, but if I'm going to, I'd probably have to delete a lot of my videos because I say too much and I can be too honest sometimes. Andrade is so strong, though. That's true, but strength does not win you wrestling matches, though. Alexa is my wife, and I want her to win, but I just have a feeling Valentina finally has motivation to kick some ass. I mean, we'll see. We will see. Can I watch Jake versus Diaz on YouTube? Probably not. Pat Barry's a wild dude. Yep. I already know Jake is gonna beat Nate Diaz. The reason DJC is so honest because he cares about his fighters like Rose, Alexa, and Irene. Yep. Yeah, because some people will say that you just completely switched on Rose, or you're not a loyal fan. You know what I mean? Or they will think that now I just hate her all of a sudden. That's not true. I do like Rose, and I wish her nothing but the best. You know, I don't want her to lose to Manon Fiorot. I would love to see her reinvent her career, redeem herself. And I wish her, I hope she can go on a flyweight run. I hope her and Alexa can both win together, and that fight can end up happening because that would be a great fight. That would be a huge fight, and it would work out better for Rose because then she doesn't have to fight her friend Valentina Shevchenko. So, but speaking of Jessica slams, let's talk about that. When was the last time Andrade ever slammed a bitch? Caitlin Chukagan in 2020. Like I said, Caitlin Chukagan is physically weak. Caitlin Chukagan can only beat you if you're average everywhere. If you don't have good grappling and you're small, you're short, and you don't have any power and your striking isn't all that, you don't have any speed, she'll beat you. So, of course, Andrade, that was the last time she was ever able to power drive somebody. But she ran it back with Rose, couldn't slam her again. Um, Tried slamming Valentina Shevchenko, but we know because Valentina is just different, built different, that wasn't going to work. Um, and then, okay, she didn't need to really work her wrestling on Cynthia because she offered no striking threat, skipped the Lemos fight. But the Lauren Murphy fight, she attempted takedowns on Lauren Murphy. I remember very clearly, and she could not pick Lauren Murphy off her feet. And Lauren was defending takedowns, you know? And she didn't even try to engage the wrestling with Erin Blanchfield because Erin Blanchfield is a good wrestler. And I know that she didn't want to get in the grappling situation with Erin because Erin is very dangerous in that field. Um, so I don't know. I think that part of her game is figured out. I feel like girls, they now know how to defend the slam of Andrade. And I think if she tries again, it's just not going to work. It's not going to fly by the same way. So if she tries to slam Tatiana, which I hope she tries, she's going to be in for a rude awakening if she thinks she can go in there and pick up Tatiana Suarez. Let me read more comments. Val has never really been in this spot. True. And I'm not trying to say that, oh yeah, Shevchenko is just you know, I'm not trying to be one of these people that are acting like, yeah, she's got no chance to win because she's just washed up and her performances are just declining and all that stuff. I'm not trying to say that. Of course, she's going to be dangerous. Even with how arrogant she is, I think that definitely makes her more dangerous because she believes Alexa's not on her level and she thinks that fight, that loss should have never happened. So even though she's not giving her credit, Nunes didn't give Pena any credit. And look how that rematch went. So obviously, I'm expecting a dangerous fight for Alexa Grasso. And in my Nightmare Matchup video, I did say that Val will be driven by revenge, but it does not matter. I think styles, they make matchups. And I don't think 2 fights in a row, Valentina is going to be able to fight the same way against Alexa Grasso in terms of just taking her down and keeping her down. And I don't think, no matter how angry or motivated she is, she'll never be able to beat Alexa on the feet. Alexa's boxing is just far too superior to hers. So, yeah, Alexa just has that advantage of if we're standing, I'm going to beat you. And you have to take me down. And if you can't, I'm going to win the fight. So if Alexa clears that up in terms of her wrestling, it's just going to be another Leon versus Usman. It's going to be just like that. So you keep counting out Alexa Grasso. You just watch. I've gotten right every single Alexa Grasso fight since 2020. Okay, I've gotten right all of her fights. Every last one of Alexa Grasso's fights, I've been correct. The only one that I got wrong was Carla Esparza, and she won that fight anyway. The judges got it wrong. I knew she'd smash Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I knew she'd beat Carla, and they gave it to Carla. I didn't predict her Randa or Suarez fights because back then I wasn't paying attention to her career. I knew she'd take care of Ji Young Kim easily. I knew she'd beat Barber. When everyone doubted Alexa and said, "Oh, Alexa Grasso is too small and she's not a true strawweight and she has no grappling," when everyone was saying that, I'm like, nah, 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 nah. Alexa Grasso, her skills from the strawweight division are gonna perfectly translate to flyweight, and she's gonna take over. Your boy ended up being right. You know, when people said Barber was too big and strong, I said, nope. I said Alexa Grasso is the better grappler than Macy Barber, and it showed. And she wasn't even that much stronger than Alexa when they clinched up, and Alexa's boxing was too good. And Alexa kicked her ass until the third round, but it doesn't matter. She dominated most of the fight. And then I knew that she would stomp on JoJo Wood and finish that fight. And I knew that she was going to beat Vivi Araujo as well. And a lot of people thought that Vivi was going to be a tough matchup. I knew she'd take care of business in that fight. And I knew she would beat Valentina Shevchenko as well. Now, at first, I did actually say that, oh, Alexa Grasso would lose to Valentina if they fight, and that she will only be champ when Val retires. But in January of this year, I did some thinking. I'm like, you know what? Actually, she can beat Valentina Shevchenko because I thought, okay, not only is Valentina slowing down, Alexa Grasso actually is the better boxer. And Alexa can actually take Valentina on the feet, and her grappling is improving. So I wasn't too worried about the grappling of Shevchenko. I knew there was a chance that Val would try to take the fight to the ground, but she's not really the biggest wrestling threat there is out there. So I thought Alexa will be fine in that aspect. So yeah, I knew Alexa would win because she's at the peak of her career. I mean, she hasn't even peaked yet. She's still growing as a fighter, getting better. And I knew Valentina by that point was older, and Alexa would have her figured out, and Alexa would go out there and be the younger fighter with the youth and the better boxing. And my prediction for this fight was spot on. Okay, I first said that Alexa was going to win the fight via decision, but then I changed my mind and I said, actually, no. Valentina is going to be winning the fight until she gets finished late. I called exactly how the fight was going to play out. I didn't know how Alexa would finish her. I just knew that she was going to finish her late in the fight. And I knew that Valentina was going to be winning because she's Valentina. But now, for my next prediction, I don't think Alexa's going to be as far behind on the scorecards. And I think this time she won't need a finish, and this time she'll get a decision. Now, how Valentina Shevchenko does win this fight is she does win. Let's give Valentina credit. So if she does win, well, she better hope that her wrestling works again, first and foremost. And if her wrestling is successful in this fight, she can't just look to lay on Alexa Grasso. She can't just look to lay and pray. She has to look to do damage this time. Like, she's got to work her elbows, cut her up. She's got to focus on getting submissions. Last time she wrestled Alexa Grasso, she just wrestled her just to get by, just to hold her down, just so she wouldn't have to deal with her boxing, just to stay safe. This time she has to wrestle to do damage and finish the fight. And then also stand up wise, she has to sit down on her punches more. You know, she has to get Alexa's respect, because when they fought, she could not get the respect of Alexa. Alexa was able to comfortably walk her down. So she's got to put more power behind her shots, and she better hope her wrestling works again. And she has to wrestle not to win on points, but to destroy Alexa Grasso. But I don't think that she will be able to do that. Even if she comes back more motivated, I don't see her making as many adjustments going forward. I think she'll look to do something similar because it was working last time, but I don't think it's going to work this time. And I've won every single debate when it comes to Alexa Grasso and her fights. I've argued with people on who would win against whoever she was fighting, and I've won every single argument with those people when she would end up winning those fights. So I believe that this one will be no different. Maybe I'm a bit cocky. I do respect Val, and who knows? Maybe I do get this one wrong. But then I'll pick her to win her next fight after that and be correct. And I'll say that she'll be a two-time champion. Valentina won't be around much longer, and then Alexa gets the belt back anyway. So that's just the thing about me. It's like, when I love someone so much and I believe in them that much, somehow I end up always right. I mean, when I was at the peak of being a Rose, Glazer, I was always right about Rose as well. I'm not always right about her performances or her wins so much, but I was always right about her mindset and her approach to things. When everyone said that Rose Namajunas was done after the Jessica fight, that she wasn't coming back, I had all the inside scoops about Rose, sort of being close to her inner circle. And I knew that she was going to come back, and I knew that she was coming back because she was motivated again, and I knew that she'd want to be champion again. And it showed when she was emotional when she won the belt back. And when everyone said that she was going to be an inactive two-time champion, I said she'd be active. And guess what? Rose Namajunas ended up fighting 3 times in the span of 11 months. Keep posting, Brody. The number one thing you do to improve your channel is go live more often. You have time. You're my favorite dude talking about. Thanks, bro. Repeating the Guadalajara, Mexico, Alexa Grasso, respecting Alexa L. Campeona. The number one. Oh, I already read that. Valentina has a huge ego, the size of Pacific Ocean. She'll win. She'll not allow herself to be humiliated once more. Yeah, but that ego of hers could also cost her. That ego could also be her downfall. Her arrogance could be her downfall. It could absolutely be her downfall as well. Andrade fights only the best competition. Got to keep that in mind. Her schedule is nuts. Yeah, and the issue with Jessica is that she's too active. I think after the Xiaonan fight, she should have turned this fight down and just took a break. Took a break from fighting and just took time off to reevaluate things and improve herself. But she has not given herself that time. So I think because she's just rushing things, I think it's just not going to do her any favors. I hope Alexa wins and defends against the lost violent female Macy Bar, the last violent female MMA Macy the Future. I don't. If Alexa stays the champion, I don't think that rematch will happen because I don't think she'll make it to a title shot. But if they fight again, I think Alexa wins again. Same result. I'm too good at predicting Alexa fights. Okay, now, okay, hold on. Andrade is a beast, and at one point she was the best in the world, but she's been getting smashed lately. Yeah, but she's only been the best in the world depending on who she's been fighting. And the only best fighter in the world that she's ever beat was Rose. Literally. That's it. And Jessica Andrade, I mean, she used to have that sort of Max Holloway status to herself in the division, being the number one contender that can beat everyone but the champ. Now she went from Brunson status, Neil Magny status. Now it's like she's a top 7 gatekeeper. But anyway, let's talk about not Nate Paul, Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz, because that is in the title. So, can Nate Diaz get the job done? I'm a huge Nate Diaz fan. I'm definitely rooting for him to win the fight. I want him to win. But man, Jake Paul has proven himself against these old UFC fighters. I mean, I knew he'd beat Ben Askren because Ben Askren can't box for shit. He was a wrestler in MMA with terrible striking, so it was obvious Jake Paul would win that. But I thought that Woodley would win because Woodley in MMA, even though he was one-dimensional on the feet with that right hand, he's held his own against high-level strikers, and he's always found a way to plant that bomb on his opponent's chin. So I'm thinking he'll knock Jake Paul out. But the Frozen one showed up and didn't capitalize on hurting Jake and lost. And they fought again, and he got knocked out to my surprise. But I knew Jake would win the rematch. And then I thought Jake Paul would lose to Anderson Silva because Anderson Silva has had some boxing matches and he's done well in boxing. And, he's won all these boxing matches. And Anderson, in his prime, was the best striker in the UFC at one point. So I thought he should be able to beat Jake. Doesn't happen. So I guess Nate Diaz isn't going to win. But one thing I will say is that, Nate Diaz will be the best. Nate Diaz will be the best pure boxer that Jake Paul will have ever fought. He'll be the best MMA fight. He'll be the best MMA boxer that Paul has ever fought. Because think about it. Like I said, Askren ass scream, no hands, just a wrestler, had no business being in the boxing ring. Woodley just has a right hand and low output, and never pulls the trigger when it matters. And then Anderson Silva, I mean, I know Anderson Silva is a really good striker and he does have good hands. Like he can box, but Anderson Silva, what made his striking so dangerous was his overall striking, like his kicks, because he was a Muay Thai kickboxer. So it was his kicks, his knees, his elbows, his ability to use his other tools made him so difficult to deal with in the striking. But in boxing, you can't elbow, you can't kick, you can't knee. So if it was like a kickboxing fight, Anderson Silva wins that easily. But because he had to box with Jake, it allowed Jake to do really well in that fight, and land the big shots and I guess get the better of the boxing in that fight. But in terms of just having good hands, Nate Diaz has that. So I'm not really saying Nate's going to win or just straight up outbox Jake Paul. But again, this will be one of the very few MMA fighters that actually has a decent chance of beating Jake because of his boxing and also that chin of his as well, the toughness of him. Nate Diaz has got the durability, he's got the cardio, and unlike Woodley, he'll actually be aggressive. He'll actually pull the trigger. He'll actually throw combinations, and his combinations will be effective. But is he going to win, though? I don't think so, because Nate Diaz, he's been declining in his performances in MMA as of late. Barely did anything against Leon Edwards, but stand sideways and show his butt to Leon. It looked like he didn't even try against the worst version of Tony Ferguson, and he pulled that off, but he looked terrible in that fight. Both guys looked bad. The last time Nate truly looked good in MMA was like the Anthony Pettis fight, and of course the Michael Johnson fight and the 2 Conor McGregor fights, but Nate Diaz isn't that same killer that he once was. I think he has moments where he like lands on Jake, but Nate doesn't really have any power. I mean, he's got pop to his punches. He did rock Leon Edwards, but Nate's more of a volume guy, whereas Jake has that raw power. And I just think Jake is just going to cancel out Nate's volume with his power. And I think throughout the rounds, Jake Paul is just going to land the bigger, better, harder strikes to every like 1, 2, 4-piece combo that Nate throws. It's not going to do that much damage. And then Jake is going to land one big bomb that's going to stun Nate, cut him open. Nate's got a lot of scar tissue, so Nate's going to bleed a lot. So I think that damage-wise, Jake is going to win this fight. A lot of people are saying Paul is going to be the one to crack Nate's chin. We've been saying that every time, Nate Diaz has fought a good finisher. Masvidal couldn't finish him. Leon couldn't finish him, and he finished Usman and couldn't finish Nate Diaz. Conor couldn't finish him in Conor's prime. So I don't think Nate Diaz is going to get finished, but I do think he's going to get beat up in this fight. I think he'll get hit by big shots. He'll get busted open. And Jake, like I said, like he'll just win through damage. And I think he'll have better defense. And I think Nate's just going to get hit more. That's what I think. Now, Jake Paul might drop Nate Diaz, but Nate Diaz will get up. Unless the referee pulls some BS, which the MMA guru pointed out that maybe he could drop Nate Diaz and the ref won't even do a countdown and just stop the fight. Maybe the ref could do a premature stoppage, which I hope not. I hope the ref gives Nate Diaz every chance in the book, to win this fight, because you can never count Nate Diaz out. He's never out of the fight. But yeah, I just think Jake's just going to be too good, man. He's young, he's in his prime, and Jake has proven he's not a joke. Like, he's not just a YouTuber. He's actually serious about his combat sports career and his boxing career. And against Tommy Fury, who is the first real boxer he ever fought, not just some gimmicky boxing match he had, he took Tommy Fury to a split decision. It was a very close fight with Tommy Fury. He barely lost that fight, and he dropped Tommy Fury. So based off all that, Jake Paul is going to win. The kid is legit, and we got to give him credit. And I know we would all like to think Jake will lose, but I just don't think Nate is going to be the one to do it. I think if you keep setting these guys from the UFC to fight Jake Paul, they're all going to fall before Jake Paul. You got to give Jake Paul an actual good boxer, and then Jake will get his comeuppance. Now, if you throw Israel Adesanya in there against Jake Paul, I'm picking the style bender to destroy Jake Paul, but I don't think they would fight because they're boys. If you put Alex Poatan Pereira in there, Pereira would destroy Jake Paul. There's like a few select strikers that I could see transitioning to MMA to boxing and beating Jake Paul. But yeah, I just don't see it being Nate Diaz. And plus, Nate Diaz is smaller as well. Valentina's ego is bigger than DJC's love for Irene. I don't know about that. Maybe. But it's not so much about having a big ego that can make you dangerous. You gotta balance it out as well. You gotta also have a very realistic mindset as well. And I just think Valentina's mindset, her outlook is just not realistic about the fight with Alexa at all. She said she was dominating the fight. She was not dominating Alexa Grasso. She was winning the fight with Alexa Grasso. Trust me, she was winning the fight, but she forgot that she lost the first round. And she forgot that every time they were on the feet, Alexa Grasso was winning on the feet against her. Completely forgot about that. So there was no domination, and she got takedowns with literally no damage, just control. And then round 4 was a very even round. And if Alexa Grasso, let's say, just took her back but couldn't get the choke, Alexa wins that round, and it's 2-2 going into the 5th, and Valentina was already slowing down. So Alexa probably was going to win the 5th round as well. So there was no domination in that fight. She needs to drop that mindset. There was no domination, and Alexa is not a chance fighter. She said Alexa Grasso only relies on luck to win fights, which is BS. When has she shown to only be a chance fighter? Alexa has dominated all of her flyweight fights except for the Valentina fight, but she finished Valentina. There was no chance in her fight beating Vivi. That was complete domination. It was somewhat close. I don't agree with 50-45, but it was a clear win for Alexa Grasso. She completely dominated JoJo Wood from start to finish, outboxed her, took her down, led her up, took her down again, choked her out. Completely dominated Macy Barber up until the 3rd round and dominated Ji Young Kim. So how is she shown to be a chance fighter? So we'll see. Nate Diaz just fought Cowboy. Nate Diaz that fought Cowboy would destroy Jake Paul. Yeah, I agree. Like Nate in his prime would win, but Nate Diaz is not in his prime anymore, and Jake just keeps getting away with fighting all these Jake just keeps getting away with fighting all these old has-beens from MMA. Ben Askren, and Ben got fucked up by Jake. Oh, he totally did. Let me read more of these comments. Right now, the best striker in MMA is Volkanovski. Yeah, I can't argue against that because he's won pretty much every stand-up fight that he was in. And I mean, even against Yair, I mean, he wrestled for most of that fight, but in the one round where he gave Yair a chance and chose not to wrestle, his defense was on fleek. That's such a sus word to use, but his defense was on point, and then he cracked Yair Rodriguez, of course, after butting him in the head. But no matter, he beat him to the punch, rocked him, and then took him down and finished him. So, yeah, on the feet, he's one of the harder guys to beat. And just in general, one of the harder guys to beat. Jake dropped Anderson Silva. Yeah, that fight made me so mad because Anderson Silva was one of my childhood favorites. I grew up watching Silva. That's been my guy, bro. I love Anderson Silva, man. When I was a kid, I grew up watching him in awe of his performances. It was like out of a movie watching that guy fight, So I didn't want that fight with Jake to happen because I knew there was a possibility that, Jake will end up beating my hero and I'll be salty about it. What happened to Tony Ferguson? Well, what happened? Justin Gaethje happened and age happened, and Tony just was not the same. He could not rebound. I think if Tony fought Gaethje when he was maybe a bit younger, his body probably could have took that beating and then came back just fine. But getting beat up like that at the wrong end of 37 years old, there's no coming back from that. So Yeah, his body just completely shut down him after. Ugh. Go get a job, boys. Don't talk bullshit for the sake of $1. Stupid. Nobody cares about what your tiny head thinks, Dumbo. Who is this clown, bro? Nobody knows you. Dip from my life, man. How many subscribers do you got, man? What do you do other than talking shit on the internet? Man just randomly spawned on my live just to talk shit. Anyway, Nate got battered by Leon. I think I already responded to that maybe, but yeah, definitely happened. Keep posting new Brody. I'll keep that up. Yep. Speaking of Andrade fighting the best competition, she reminds me of like a female RDA because both are Brazilian, both have competed in multiple different weight classes, both were former champs who didn't last long as champions, although RDA defended the title once still. And they've both just fought nothing but killers, and they've lost to most of the good fighters that they fought, but still, they've been in there with some absolute killers and they never say no to a challenge and never back down from a fight. They're like cut from the same cloth in that sense. Never stop telling the truth, DJ. You give these girls tough love only because you care. Exactly. Like I gave Juliana Pena tough love at one point. If you guys remember, I might have been a bit harsh with her, but when Amanda wasn't retired, I'm like, Pena, stop focusing on Amanda Nunes. Focus on yourself and your career and rebuilding yourself and bouncing back against someone else. Stop looking for just clout off one person. You know what I mean? And then when she got the title shot over Aldana, I was so mad because I'm like, Aldana deserved this and you did nothing to earn it. So I know if Pena watched my channel, she'd probably oppose me for being so honest and would probably think I'm a fake fan. All right, let's see. Is anyone else still on this live? Because I think I've covered pretty much everything I want to talk about. I covered Jessica Andrade, talked about her fight with Tatiana Suarez. Um, and I already talked about Nate Diaz versus Jake Paul. Went on a bit of a ramble about some other fights too. Yeah, I don't think I can be on here much longer anyway. But and I already said this wouldn't be one of my longest lives, so uh, I guess if anyone doesn't have anything else to say, I'll probably just call it a night.